Hello everyone. So in this video, we'll talk about autoreceptors and heteroreceptors. Specifically, we will be talking about what is an autoreceptor or an heteroreceptor, what is their functional significance, what exactly they do, and can an autoreceptor be a heteroreceptor? For example, let's say if you label one receptor as an autoreceptor, it's going to be always autoreceptor, or it can function as heteroreceptors. So before we discuss auto and heteroreceptors, let's briefly overview the process of neurotransmission, because that'll help you to understand what's the function of these autoreceptors and heteroreceptors. So this neurotransmission is a process in which neurons talk to each other, and typically this is a presynaptic neuron, this is a postsynaptic neurons, and this is synapse, and then there's a receptor that is talking to this neurotransmitter. So for example, here's the neurotransmitter packaged in this vesicle, and when this neuron gets a signal to fire, what happens basically, this neuron releases that neurotransmitter, and this neurotransmitter goes and further binds to this postsynaptic receptor and then carry out the signal transduction, or you can pass the information down or to the next neuron, or it can be taken up by this transporter so that the action is terminated. This is one of the way that action can be terminated. So you see that it is taken back by this transporter, and then everything turns back to normal. So this is the entire process of neurotransmission in a very quick and a brief overview. So now let's try to understand how the autoreceptor is going to work. So we're going to be taking an example of adrenergic neurotransmission. So exactly same model that we just saw. This is a presynaptic neuron. It's a postsynaptic neuron. That's the adrenergic receptor. This is another adrenergic receptor, and then here is this presynaptic vesicle. So you see that when this neuron gets a signal, this neurotransmitter is released in synapses, and then it can bind to this receptor, which is the postsynaptic one. And it can also bind to this presynaptic autoreceptors. So just think about that. This is alpha-2 receptors. So alpha-2 receptors are they are inhibitory in nature. So see that when it binds to this receptor, what will happen? Since this is inhibitory, it will stop the process of neurotransmission. So you see that this is an autoreceptor example in which this receptor is sitting on the presynaptic side of a neuron, and it is actually regulating its own neurotransmitter release, which is basically, this is an adrenergic receptor and this is an adrenergic neurotransmission. So that's the reason it's called autoreceptor, right? So an auto means, another way of just thinking about is self. Can it regulate itself in terms of neurotransmitter release? So this is an example of autoreceptor. So now let's see that can an autoreceptor function as a heteroreceptor? So let's take an example of the same receptor. Now this receptor is on this glutamatergic terminal. So this is a glutamate neuron, and then this is adrenergic receptor. It's sitting in a presynaptic side. And now since this is alpha-2, it's inhibitory in nature. So now what can happen, this neurotransmitter can bind to this receptor, and then since this is inhibitory in nature, so it can stop this neuron from functioning, or it can stop the neurotransmission of this neuron. So now this receptor becomes a heteroreceptor on this neuron. So for example, this is exactly the same receptor. You see this alpha-2. Here it is an autoreceptor, and this is heteroreceptor. So in a summary, an autoreceptor is a receptor which is sitting on a presynaptic site which can regulate its own neurotransmitter release. So this is an adrenergic receptor, this is an adrenergic neurotransmission. Whereas in heteroreceptor, it's a receptor which is sitting on presynaptic site, where it can regulate a different neurotransmitter release. So that's the reason it's called heteroreceptor. I hope this helps, and if you really want to go more about it, see more about auto and heteroreceptors, there are some publications or research publication you can further refer to. I hope this helps. If it helped, just make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe for the future videos. Thank you.